Hello and welcome to Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics. This episode's a little bit different, so I felt that it deserved an introduction. Keaton is on tour going around this beautiful nation of ours with the lovely rock band, the Velveteers. So this episode is just with Julian, Cam, and myself. So what you're about to see is just three guys doing a podcast. Three members of Wax Romantics, sans Keaton, doing a podcast and trying their hardest. It was a beautiful and lovely and fun conversation. We meandered at points and went all over the place, but that's what it's all about, in my opinion. We did talk for a while, so I thought we might as well split this episode into two parts. So what you're about to see is part one. I'll kind of stop it halfway through, and then we'll put out part two next week. So anyways, without further ado, here is part one of Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics, sans Keaton. Hope you enjoy.
Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics.
And this is Encyclopedia Britannica too. This isn't fucking Wikipedia.
Ooh.
This isn't. This isn't fucking
Britannica for the Queen.
Yeah, only the best. Let's see. Oh, now it's talking about Kanye. That's too bad.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Oh, you're such
Hey.
a nan, Cam. You come on here.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Where are my where's Granny's tablets?
Where am
Granny
I?
needs those for her arthritis.
I don't
Hello,
think you can hear
me?
us.
You're not using the skeet background. No.
I didn't even hear that.
What'd you say? That was good timing, though. I just texted.
Julian and I did a really well executed skit on what a nan you are, Cam.
What a man I am?
A nan is in a grandma, a nanny, a sissy nanny.
The fuck? Elaborate.
Is my computer on?
Just the way you can. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys?
I don't know what I'm supposed to speak into.
Oh, no, not nanny's tablets, dear.
Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys.
Okay,
Julian,
welcome to Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics. I'm Collin. I'm here with the Nan and Julian.
Fuck you, man. You know, I'm alright. God damn it.
And we don't have Keaton today because he is on tour. So sending our regards to Keaton. This is just a three guys podcast, three guys trying their
Three guys, one
absolute
pod.
hardest. Yeah,
Oh, God, Julian.
trying their very best. So, guys, let's hop right into it. I hope you're doing well. We can go to how you're doing in a minute here, but I did want to bring this up before I forgot. Last episode was, of course, the grunge episode. And this happens before we filmed that. So I'm not sure why I brought it up because I feel like I wanted to, but we might as well bring it up now. Did you guys see the Eddie Vedder, Nikki Sixx beef?
I did not, no.
I don't know too much, but I saw there was a beef.
Okay. So, of course, we're talking Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, a monumental grunge band, and then Nikki Sixx, one of the founding members and bass player of Motley Crue. And on a side note, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Motley Crue, not only recently, but in the past, 3 years, has really been in the zeitgeist, or at least Motley Crue keeps entering
100%.
my life in weird ways. Obviously, there's Pam and Tommy now, and there was The Dirt a while ago. But I just for whatever reason, Motley Crue keeps coming up in my life. Have you guys seen Pam and Tommy?
I keep
I've seen the
seeing
first two episodes.
I keep seeing trailers for it. It looks fascinating.
Embarrassingly, the clip that got me interested in the show was the animatronic penis clip, and I was like,
That is one of the highlights of it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Jason Mantzoukas voices the penis, which I thought was great.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's I enjoyed the show. I thought it was rather kind of elegant view on it. I think, because at first I thought it was going to be kind of like bashing both of them, but I think Lily James did a good job of portraying Pam Anderson. And I did see an interview with her where she said she didn't want to make fun of Pam Anderson. Like, she was recognizing that Pam Anderson did go through something traumatic. And but anyways, I think they just put out the last one in the series recently, and I watched it, so I am done with the series now. But the beef I'm pointing to is so I'll jump to the headline first. What it resulted in is Nikki Sixx ended up calling Pearl Jam a brown hair band for brown hair fans, and essentially called them boring. And on a side note, I'm a Pearl Jam fan. I like Pearl Jam, and but I do think brown hair band and brown hair fans is one of the funniest and most accurate things I've.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it did resonate with me in a funny way. So yeah, it is a brown hair band, and Nikki Sixx is obviously like he's a showbiz guy. Jet black hair. That's what Motley Crue is all about, and. So you can see from why his angle, a brown hair band would be a bad thing. But anyways, I'll jump to the beginning now. Vedder, in a New York Times interview, said, and now I'm reading straight from the interview. He was talking about working at a club in San Diego in the 80s, which I actually mentioned in last episode because that's where he met Joe Strummer. He said, "The metal bands that, I'm trying to be nice, I despised. Girls, 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 and Motley Crue, fuck you. I hated it," he explained. "I hated how it made the fellas look. I hated how it made the women look. It felt so vacuous." So that was the headline. That's how the beef started. Vacuous.
Wow.
Yeah, empty of meaning, devoid of all things, vacuum. So I was on, I've mentioned this program on the podcast before, Time Crisis with Ezra Koenig. They briefly talked about this in one of the Time Crisis episodes I just listened to. And I thought Ezra had a really good take on it. He was like, what he said is basically Eddie Vedder got himself into all this because, at the end of the day, like Eddie Vedder, I think, is a very thoughtful guy, very articulate. I think he is like a real music fan, and I think he puts a lot of meaning into what he says, and he's just thoughtful. So what Ezra said is that what he thinks Eddie Vedder was essentially trying to say is like, I didn't like Motley Crue. That's it. Like, all he was trying to say is, I don't like Motley Crue. But because he's so thoughtful, he like maybe wanted to kind of root it in more of this like feminist view. The quote that I read didn't go, it went on further, where, Eddie Vedder kind of rooted it in feminism, saying that, that Motley Crue objectified women, and that, they had this very, I think he even made like a comparison between like Heather Locklear and Cat Power for whatever reason, because Tommy Lee was married to Heather Locklear. But anyways, Eddie Vedder could have just been like, I don't like Motley Crue, and that could have been the end of it. But he kind of dug himself into a hole. Anyways, so days later, Nikki Sixx, the bass player of Motley Crue, got wind of Vedder's comments and took it upon himself to discuss. This article says the even flow at which he despises Pearl Jam. And I should mention I'm reading from Vulture right now. He tweeted, "Made me laugh today reading how much the singer in Pearl Jam," and I love how Eddie Vedder is one of the most famous musicians alive, and Nikki Sixx says the singer in Pearl Jam.
Singer in Pearl Jam.
Yeah. Hated Motley Crue. Now, considering that they're one of the most boring bands in history, it's kind of a compliment, isn't it? Sixx added that Vedder's vocals sound like marbles in your mouth. And then he later went on to have that comment that I said, a brown hair band for brown hair fans. And he said that the fans look bored and stuff. And then Pearl Jam strike back against that and took a video at one of their concerts and said, "We heart our bored fans." And the fans were obviously not bored. So I just thought this was a hilarious beef to be having in 2022.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I just take it back for 1 second. Do
Mhm.
you guys give a fuck about Motley Crue?
No.
I don't.
They
Okay.
have a couple of good songs, but overall, I could give two shits. Like, The Dirt was a god-awful movie. Pam and
The
Tommy.
book, The Dirt, was really good, though. I'll say.
I mean,
I
getting
read the book.
MGK to play Tommy Lee was the
I'll
first
say it because
thing.
Keaton's not here. You know, Hitler had a good couple paintings, but nobody fucking likes Hitler. Like, I don't know, man. They just, I think they're like relevant in like the memeable sense almost. But like Pearl Jam's just actually relevant still.
Well,
Yeah.
Pearl Jam has countless good songs too. Yeah, Motley Crue, no, I'm not a fan.
Well,
I
no.
usually-
Okay, so yeah, Motley Crue does lack an extensive catalog,
They do.
but they do have some stone cold hits, and you can't deny that. And I would describe my relationship with Motley Crue as complicated because you guys know I'm obviously an indie guy. There's not a lot of crossover, I think, between fans of the Smiths and fans of Motley Crue. And I'm definitely like more on the Smiths side. But I will say, I do think the world is a brighter place that Motley Crue was in it. And I think they have contributed a lot to pop culture. And there are like, it's hard to imagine a world without Girls, Girls, Girls or Kickstart My Heart at the end of the day.
Like a less sexist world.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess like ignoring the moral complexities behind that and everything. But I feel like I'm just far enough detached from all that to kind of just view Motley Crue in a more objective sense. And I will say, reading the book The Dirt did make me a little bit more sympathetic towards them. I agree with you, Cam. The movie was terrible, but the book
Yeah.
did give a more honest portrayal of all that. And it was
Yeah.
like the book was actually pretty devastatingly sad. Like it got dark, and especially Nikki Sixx's life. Like it's funny to like laugh about like, oh yeah, the guy survived 3 overdoses, but like it was pretty fucked up,
It was. No, I recall a couple scenes even in the movie where there's some fucked up parts. The car crash scene, they do a great job of showing how a fucked up mind can kind of manipulate a traumatic experience like that. But what I was going to ask you, does the book start with them trying to get, this is so fucked up, a woman to like, do you remember the opening scene?
Yeah, I
of the
know the
movie?
start. No, I don't think the book starts that way. I think it starts with Nikki Sixx's childhood.
Okay, good. I think the movie definitely opens with, it leads into Nikki Sixx's childhood, certainly, but the movie starts with that one scene. I don't even want to bring it up. It's just horrible, but it's
Okay.
all you know right there.
I'm gonna change subject before it gets gross.
Please do.
I just wanted to mention this because you're talking about Motley Crue having like cultural relevance and whatnot, which yeah, sure they have some, but let's just look at the numbers here for a second.
Okay.
Motley Crue has 4 AMA nominations and 1 win. Pearl Jam has 9 nominations and 5 wins.
Ooh.
Yeah, but that's just
Motley
industry insider
Crue-
stuff, man. Warzone
Motley
meetings, man.
Crue, whatever, dude. Motley Crue has 3 Grammy noms, no wins. Pearl Jam has 15 nominations
Grammy
and
nominations?
2 wins, Grammys, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because maybe Motley Crue was a little bit too hardcore for the mainstream. You know what I mean?
I think they're a little too bad for the mainstream.
Yeah. No. Okay, so
It's see, like you can take the devil's advocate defense, but I know that's all it is.
yeah, you're right. I am trying to play devil's advocate because I never once have I like earnestly listened to Motley Crue in public. Like, I'd be embarrassed to be found like listening to a Motley Crue song in my car. But I guess it's because I paid Motley Crue no mind until I read The Dirt, and then that got me into it. And I did, like, that was the first time I've ever listened somewhat sincerely to their music. And I guess what I'm saying is that hair metal to me is a kind of fun and adorable legacy within American music that now, me having no context around everything else at that time and, you know, not digging in the nuances of it, I do think hair metal is a fun thing to look back on. And I think Motley Crue played an important part in all that. But yeah, it is just all devil's advocate stuff.
No, I agree.
Their music fucking sucks, and they're a bad band. Yeah,
thank
you.
Yeah, that's all I was going for. They definitely play a part, but they're not the best or the most important in anything, which is fine. It's okay to play a part, but not be like, I don't know. It's just like, again, the difference between being culturally significant as a meme and being culturally significant as like actually
like a piece of history.
A cultural, yeah, exactly. That's the difference there. And just the fact that anyone would have the guts to come back at Eddie Vedder and be like, you fucking suck. It's like, nah, dude. He doesn't. No one thinks he does.
I do admire, though, and this was another point that was kind of brought up in the Time Crisis episode, that Eddie Vedder, like I said, you know, thoughtful guy. He was trying to have this kind of more culturally rooted opinion in why he didn't like Motley Crue. And like I said, brought in feminism, maybe unjustly. But I do kind of admire that Nikki Sixx just came back and was like, fuck you, bro. Fucking hate you. You know, like, you guys are boring. You suck.
It is like the most, like, I don't know, like kind of American way to like fight and debate. That's like what all of our politicians do. One person will be like, well, this dude sucks because of A, B, and C. And then the other dude's just like, well, fuck you. And that's what's happening with my boy Keat right here.
that picture and the context surrounding that picture had me literally crying laughing, man. That was so hilarious.
Yeah,
in bed with your wife. Oh my god!
Before you came on
Collin hadn't heard about it.
Yeah. Oh really? It was pretty funny, man.
I think it's
Keat's a fucking asshole.
It's like kind of sort of he's an asshole, but also kind of sort of he's not, because like they're all adults, man. Adults can do whatever the fuck they want. Like,
yeah, you raise a good point.
And I think the one thing, I don't want to actually have a conversation about this, but like the one thing that Pete Davidson said that was like relevant was like, hey man, your kids are gonna like be permanently fucked up from this shit. And like that, that's true. And Kanye can't really pretend to be like, I just want my kids to be okay, if he's also gonna like torch their whole world to the fucking ground for like social media attention.
Oh, most definitely.
Now, bringing it back to something that matters, Motley I'm just joking. Sorry. It isn't actually about Motley Crue. I was gonna segment from that on Eddie Vedder did say that not all of that metal was bad. He did. I definitely remember he mentioned Guns N' Roses favorably, and I think he even mentioned Def Leppard favorably. So I wanted to ask you guys, you know, we obviously talked about Motley Crue, but kind of what your thoughts on hair metal at large was, like, especially, I don't know, Guns N' Roses, if you guys like Guns N' Roses or any other hair metal bands.
I don't know.
Just like a huge dab.
That actually pretty well sums up the experience you're gonna have with hair metal.
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot more when I'm high.
Yeah, should we just ignore all this then?
No, I think the one thing I'll say is Def Leppard's pretty fucking good. Aerosmith, respectable, not my favorite, but also like kind of the same foundational thing, and also they're still relevant, so that's cool.
Big core band right there.
Guns N' Roses you asked about also. I'm gonna be honest, I've never really listened to Guns N' Roses. I do consider myself like a metalhead in a lot of ways, but I really enjoy like new metal, not like new metal the genre, but like new metal as in like metal from like last year and like the last couple of years. I like shit that's out there and progressive and crazy, and I like the elements of Guns N' Roses, but I think that what has never landed with me personally is just like the amount of show that goes on with it, the amount of glam. And that's just like a personal thing. I think it's not like a mark against it, because like, you know, it's respectable as shit too, and like the glam metal scene like catapulted into a whole lot of other things as well. But yeah, I don't know, it never, for like me in music, my music has to be like straight up and like pretty raw and honest, and like glam is not really that. It's all kind of like showboaty, big acty type stuff. And as a closer to that, the band Slaughter, they're like I think I would consider them like hair or glam metal, but they're like fucking incredible, and like they write some of the heaviest riffs I've ever heard, so it kind of is a varying spectrum too.
See, I kind of differentiate there, Julian, because I bumped a lot of Guns N' Roses back in the day, and I still really appreciate Guns N' Roses, but I was never too into the Def Leppard scene or anything like that. But I do agree, like they're a foundational component in that genre, and like, I mean, everyone knows the names, obviously, but it's kind of the same thing with Motley Crue. They managed to stay relevant, but the music itself kind of gets swept under the rug. Like the name outlasts the music itself almost. Would you guys kind of agree with that?
Yeah, they're like they all those have kind of become like parodies of themselves in a way, like legacy acts. I will say, of all those bands, Guns N' Roses is the one I respect the most for whatever matters. Like anyone gives a shit. But and I think they kind of transcend like the hair metal, that whole scene. And I think, Julian, I'm surprised like you said you haven't listened to too much Guns N' Roses, because I do think that Appetite for Destruction would fall into my like top 10 debut albums of all time. Even it's not like, just objectively, I think that's an incredible album. It's, you know, not my favorite kind of music, but Appetite for Destruction is definitely a feat.
I mean, I'll go back and listen to it now that you said that, for sure.
Yeah. What else did you guys want to talk about?
I didn't really have anything to talk about specifically, but I did want to, since Keaton's not here, I did just want to like mention like what that boy's actually doing, because it's pretty sick. He's like supporting the Velveteers, which is a band that's been mentioned a decent amount on this podcast. And I actually have never met the Velveteers, but I listen to their music. They're great as musicians, and like the music they put out is incredible. So big shouts out to Keaton for like being on that journey. I guess, yeah, seriously, that was pretty much it. All I really had in my notebook.
No, I totally agree, Julian. It's very noteworthy. And yeah, the Velves do get mentioned a lot, and I'm in the same boat. I've never met them, but I've heard about them for years and years and years from Collin and from Keaton. But no, it's awesome they're doing that. And their music is really phenomenal. Like, it's great production quality, and it comes together really well. And the chemistry between the band, even just through their social media and through their promotional videos, you can tell like they know what's up. Like, they are very united and very well orchestrated band. I agree.
No, I have met the Velveteers, and I can tell you they're capitalist pigs. Okay. No, I'm just joking, of course. They're awesome. I think we mentioned that when Keaton and I were in a high school band, we played a lot of shows with Velveteers. And
the only other thing that I thought was kind of funny was today I just saw on my break, Jack White. Are you guys? Are either of you Jack White fans? I'm like a big Jack White guy. I love
Big
Jack White.
JW guy.
He just like posted this video, like asking like all the big music label groups to like reopen record pressing plants. He's like, I just opened my own with my own money because like I had to do it to keep up with demand, and like now no one else can keep up with demand, and like the industry needs you. So the only like thought I had about that was I love vinyl records. I think they're really important for a lot of reasons, but the B part of that is how much do you guys actually think that vinyl sales are benefiting artists versus labels, or like just the industry at large? How much of it is like actually benefiting musicians? Because I went to not a local show, but I went to a small show last night where like the whole operation is run by the band, and like, you know, the merch that you buy goes directly in their pockets. In that instance, yes, vinyl records are the most helpful thing in the world because that's what people want to buy. But in all other senses, is it just like fighting a losing battle? And like I said, I love vinyl, but I mean, there's shortage issues with like supplies and labor. Is like vinyl really that important right now?
I do agree. It is fighting inevitability for sure.
Yeah. I'll admit I don't know a ton about the economics of it, especially since there's a shortage right now. So materials costs are probably huge to get records pressed. So the margin artists make or labels make is probably less. So that probably means less to the artists. But yeah, there's no question that buying a physical copy of music is going to give more money to the artist than streaming it. And so I'm all for it. And Jack White was a huge advocate for when this whole vinyl trend kind of initially caught on again, like early 2010s maybe is when like kind of vinyl started getting everywhere again. And so yeah, and you know, I got into it then, and I'm always trying to build my vinyl collection. So yes, ultimately it's a good thing. There are admittedly issues, environmental issues with vinyl. It's not super environmentally friendly, but what is? It'd be a weird line to draw in the sand. Like, no, I'm not going to purchase vinyl records, but I'll participate in everything else. That's kind of
yeah.
Very redundant. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, and I think it's great, and people should absolutely be encouraged to buy records.
Yeah, I think I'm all for it too at the end. Like, even though, yeah, like the supply shortages and labor shortages are one thing, and then like the environmental impact is another thing, but ultimately like it's benefiting the arts, I feel like, and just like people's awareness of like the importance of art. And I don't know, I think record labels have enough money to like give the fan bases some of the things they're asking for. Because like streaming services aren't gonna fucking do it. That's one thing we've learned is like streaming services don't give a shit about the artist or like the well-being of art.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very
as we're on a streaming service like right now, probably.
yeah. Check us out on Spotify. And this is a good time to mention Anchor by Spotify, the easiest way to make a podcast. But and just outside of, you know, like from the artist's point of view, from the fans' point of view, it's a lot more fun and more meaningful to have a physical copy of something, especially something as large and significant as a 12-inch record. And to be able to like physically interact with the album art, to have even the act of like having to flip over the record, it just engages you more than streaming music, and it sounds better if you're an audiophile type if you got the right system.
Yeah, that's
the right system.
That's like the dangerous part of it is I feel like the first part is you get into vinyl records for the collecting and the absorption of the art. But then you start to get into like the audio quality and it becomes like kind of again just like an object acquiring battle. Like I have to have this to enjoy this more, which at the end of the
Looking
day,
at $10,000 cartridges.
yeah, I've been there.
Japan.
I'm not gonna say I'm like not that type of person. I'm not trying to be like holier than thou. Oh, you shouldn't like stuff. Like I love stuff. I like stuff that makes my records sound better. I think it's fucking cool. I think we have way more cool technology in the way of vinyl than we ever did before this resurgence, which is another interesting thing, like the amount of innovation that's happened in not a very long time. But at the end of the day, like you can still enjoy a record on a piece of shit turntable through shitty speakers, like I did for years and years and years, and you can still get more out of it just by, I don't know, the emotional buy-in that comes with having physical music. And I think that again, it's becoming something that's like for everyone. I think at the beginning of the vinyl resurgence, like part of it was like, music heads only, audiophiles only, this resurgence is for you. But now it's like, you can get pretty much anything on vinyl. I know a lot of people that aren't audiophiles that have record players and enjoy them quite a lot. And just the aspect of collecting records is fun. And I think that that's another thing that ultimately helps like the whole economy is like you go shop at a local record store, you're doing a lot of good. I could talk about that forever, but at the end of the day, owning and like wanting to consume art should be like rewarded, I guess. So
yeah, you're definitely more inclined to research the artist, research the band, research like the context and background of the music when you have a hard copy. Like when you're just on Spotify and you find something you like, you're just going to take it for granted almost. But like when you have a hard copy, you're going to appreciate it more and you're more inclined to actually learn because like, yeah, it's physical, it's totally, I agree.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff I've learned about records that I love just from like buying the vinyl and reading the words on the inside and being like, whoa, I didn't know these are the words, or I didn't know this was produced by this person. It's crazy.
It is definitely addicting, the act of like purchasing a record, peeling the cellophane off, putting it on, and then like reading the lyrics or looking at the artwork as you listen along. It's a cool experience for sure.
I just bought this Radiohead reissue because I kind of like Radiohead. And it's like a 20-year reissue for Kid A and Amnesiac. It's like a big set of them both together with like a fuckload of art in the middle. And like, I don't know, it sounds stupid and it sounds like cliche, but almost just like listening to the music while looking at the art that like was made at the same time and like while in the same headspace, it like almost explains a lot more about like what I'm listening to in weird ways without like words. There's just more context. And yeah, fuck me for being like the most cheesy asshole in the world.
No.
Picture speaks 1,000 words.
It's quite literally how the artist intended for you to experience it. And also, on a side note, it's fucking mad that 20 years of Kid A, because I still think, even though Kid A was released when I was very young and I wasn't that aware of Radiohead, I still think of that as being like new Radiohead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in a weird way, I've listened to it at this point so many times that it's like not really new, but for a long time, it was just like still seminal and like, I don't know. Kid A is amazing. Seaman, are you laughing at
from last podcast? Yeah. You guys remember that?
Really bringing the tone down. Stop mentioning Seaman.
It was a deja vu nostalgia flashback.
Yeah, no, that's
Can't
great.
blame me.
I forgot about it until I said it. But anyway, yeah, Kid A is fucking great. Radiohead's cool.
Well done to Radiohead.
Mhm.
You guys really did something great there.
Those guys are okay.
Shout out Radiohead.
Tom York or like Johnny Greenwood or anyone in Radiohead, be a guest on this podcast anytime. We can talk about Pete and Kim and Kanye together.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I've got some
I'll go
hard-hitting questions for Tom York.
Yeah, like why are you still little?
Who
you
bought
so
your
short?
clothes? Where do you buy your shoes? Where are those jeans from? Why are they so baggy?
I think he'd leave the podcast based on the questions we're posing at this moment.
He would be an intimidating person to interview, but I think if we just got kind of crazy enough with him, he'd appreciate that.
We'd have to ask some really insightful questions that he hasn't already been asked a million times. Because I'm pretty sure he's the type of dude that would hate that. Like, so tell me about the beginning of Radiohead.
Yeah.
Like, how did you start playing guitar?
What was the first name? On a Friday? On a Saturday?
Yeah, it was like, on a Friday, I think.
I think it was on a Friday.
Or
That's
on
a shit
Friday.
name.
Yeah. I mean, Radiohead's kind of
I
a
think
weird
it's okay.
name, too.
I
On a
like
Friday is
Radiohead
like...
as a name.
On a Friday is a very like 90s kind of half grunge, half rock like name.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. it
In my
is.
mind, like, and that's kind of how they started, so makes sense.
Here's some trivia. Do you know where Radiohead, where they got the name from?
I feel like I used to know that.
A Talking Head song, and I wish I fucking remembered which Talking Head song it was, because now I'm so embarrassed. But yeah, Talking Head song has the lyric Radiohead in it.
Okay.
I had something related to Radiohead that was gonna spark.
I'm so excited we're finally talking about Radiohead.
Yeah.
Not even really, but just a little bit.
I will say I've kind of been, I've had the idea to one of these episodes, we should each pick an artist and like randomly, we can like get a random number generator between 1 and 4, each assign ourselves a number, and that's the album chronologically that you have to review from the artist. So like,
Really cool.
and I think Radiohead would be an awesome one to do that with. Like someone gets to review Pablo Honey, someone gets to review OK Computer, someone gets to review the Bends, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they have like 9 discs.
Yeah, I know, but we just picked the first 4 albums.
Or the most like stream.
Or we could do, we could do random generator between 1 and 9.
When we were talking about
that'd be better.
doing albums that like you don't like as like an idea for album reviews, I
still
straight
wanna
up
do that.
thought about doing Pablo Honey as like maybe one of the worst albums I've ever heard.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that.
So
'cause
now I kind of want to do that.
I was embarrassed to not like Pablo Honey for a long time because it wasn't for lack of try. Like I went back to Pablo Honey several times. And I was like, no, I've got to like Pablo Honey. And
Nah, it's kind of not
great,
that
huh?
good.
Yeah.
No. there's let's see. There's 2 songs, 1 or 2 songs that are pretty good, but I can't remember what they're called. I'm trying to find them.
Creep.
No, you I
Fucking
think is the one I'm thinking of. The first song on the record. It's like slightly mixed meter, kind of angsty, not great. It's not bad. And then track 11, Lurgy, is okay. That's their first maybe like LP song that's like kind of not giving a fuck. In like
Another funny etymological, is that a word? The etymology of Pablo Honey is from a weird, why can't I remember the name of the sketch show? But there was a weird like prank call sketch show. It's kind of a cult thing in America. And the one episode they prank call someone pretending to be Nans, like Cam. And kept saying, Pablo Honey, Pablo Honey. And I guess Tom York and Johnny Greenwood were fans of that and called the album Pablo Honey because of that.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
And you guys thought I didn't have any fun Radiohead trivia.
I know you got that trivia.
I'm full up with
The
it.
fuck?
It's coming out of my ears. I wish I knew other stuff. It's mostly just Steely Dan trivia and stuff about 90s British bands up in the old brain box.
Yeah. What? So like, I know we've talked a lot about 90s music, so I don't want to like dive way back into it, but like, if you could sum it up in like a sentence, what is it about like that era that gets you so hard? Is it the nostalgia, or is it like the fashion? Is it all of it together? Like, because you're in that shit, and I
Sex
feel it.
appeal.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry.
It's actually something that Julia heavily criticizes me for, is that I am trying very hard to live vicariously through things that have happened in the past, specifically the 90s, and that I hearken for a time that I was never even a part of. Like, dude, it's so bad. The first time I saw Trainspotting, one of my favorite movies.
That movie's fucking great. Shout out Ewan for the new Obi-Wan show as well.
Yeah, but I was so into Trainspotting, and I idolized Ewan McGregor so much that I watched Trainspotting, and I was like, I shaved my head, I bought skinny jeans, and I was literally like, okay, when is a good time to develop a heroin habit? Because like I saw Trainspotting as being so glamorous, and like I want.
You would say it's glamorous?
So
Yeah, it's not a
badly
glamorous
to have
film.
an
I
identity
would
like
not say
that in the
glamorous.
90s. Yeah, which is bizarre, because I've just rewatched it for the 30th time and realized finally, like, oh, those guys really were struggling with some things. And maybe that's not all it's cracked up to be.
Those guys were having kind of a rough time.
Yeah.
Makes you
Yeah,
think it's about heroin, doesn't it?
it does. But the 90s thing, yeah, because it is something I think about a lot. It's like, why do I want things and then to be in the 90s so bad? Yeah, it's definitely something's wrong with me in that regard, because I literally cannot think of anything from the 1990s as being bad or
It's pretty bad though. In retrospect,
yeah,
it was pretty bad. Not bad like as in the denotative term, but bad as in like shit was crazy in the 90s. You know?
yeah. But Julian, I guess I haven't put my finger on it yet why I love the 90s so bad, but it is my favorite decade of music and film and of pop culture and of everything.
I think that, I mean, if I could put words in your mouth for you for a second,
Please do.
I feel like you.
That's not the only thing you can put in my mouth.
God damn it.
I'm driving over there later. Anyway,
God
like
damn
you're a
it.
very fashionable guy, and I think you take a lot of fashion cues from like a lot of like 90s pop icons. And
Thank you.
I think that like I don't know, like I could be super wrong about this because I'm like not a historian, but like 90s fashion was like one of the first times that like casual fashion was like super fucking in.
Mhm.
And like people could just like be normal looking and still be like fucking idolized. And I think that that's like a huge part of it. Like for me personally is like a lot of those dudes from the 90s were like, I mean, they were like still glamorous, don't get me wrong, but they were like a lot more like normal and relatable and like in tune with their personal selves.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Julian. I think you're spot on about the fashion, because yeah, the 90s, maybe late 80s, but definitely the 90s was the first time where like high fashion brands were making just like normal streetwear, you know, where like you could wear something from a notable fashion designer that didn't look like you know, some bizarre like 70s Gucci
Fucking
suit
crazy.
or something. And part of the reason I love Oasis so much is because I do think they were one of the most glamorous bands to ever be around, and pulled that off wearing the same shit they wore growing up in council estates, you know, having a single mother, being super poor. Like Liam Gallagher could wear cheap jeans and a crew neck sweatshirt and look more glamorous than Ziggy Stardust, in like my opinion, you know. And I do deeply admire that about them and a lot of other bands in the 90s. It's kind of the, you know, similar thing with grunge, like we were talking about how the fashion was kind of the first thing to be hijacked and commodified and corporatized, and it was just the shit they wore in Seattle because that's what they wore, and it was functional and affordable. All right, did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy what you just heard? I hope you did. It was three guys doing a podcast. Thought that might be a good point to stop it for this week. Next week, we'll put it out, you know, and start the episode right where we stopped today. So, you know, obviously we left at a cliffhanger. We were talking about 90s fashion and grunge and 90s bands. So, you know, really gave you a lot to think about this next week until we put out part 2. But anyways, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. And yeah, we love you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Waxy Wednesdays with Wax Romantics.